Friday night, West Lafayette. The lights ignite at Ross-Ade Stadium as the Big Ten Conference's hottest storyline hits the road. Indiana Hoosiers football stands on the edge of perfection at 11-0, ranked number 2 in the CFP, and eyeing a championship touchdown in Indianapolis. Purdue Boilermakers enters the rivalry reborn under new leadership, but Indiana carries the mission. Win the bucket. Punch the ticket to Indy. Protect the dream. One more invasion. One more statement. One more chance to prove the quest is real. This is Hoosier football, and it rolls Friday night. The quest continues.
Raiola. And picked off! Up the sideline! Indiana! Asbury! Walking them down! Woo! IU! America! They got a football team now!
Good evening and welcome to another edition of the Hoosier Football Tailgate here on thehoosier.com. Appreciate you joining me this evening. Of course, it's almost Thanksgiving. I guess it is Thanksgiving Eve as everybody prepares to eat plentiful tomorrow. And if you're out traveling the roads and you're heading somewhere, by all means be safe and hopeful and prayerful for your safe travel to your destination of choice, and hope you get to enjoy your time with the family and loved ones on that special day tomorrow afternoon. As we know, the Indiana Hoosiers right now are in the midst of preparing for this final contest of the season as they will invade. That's right, invade West Lafayette Friday evening at 7:30 kickoff to take on the Purdue Boilermakers. Indiana right now the number 2 ranked team in the college football playoff, as well as reaching for perfection this year in trying to finish at 12-0. Hello again, everybody. I'm the coach, Shannon Griffith, and welcome to those that are joining us on whatever platform you're choosing to join. If you're here with us in the live environment, by all means, please put your questions, comments, or just a hello in the chat box. We love to hear from you here as well. Just a reminder, with Christmas coming up around the corner, there is no better place to shop than the Hoosier Tailgate Fanatics store. You can get that link off of my Twitter page at Hoosier Tailgate in the link bio. There's a link there to check on, and it'll take you right to that destination of the Hoosier Tailgate store on Fanatics. And if you choose to get something for your loved one or one of you, or yourself, we greatly appreciate that as well. Also, there are other items there for purchase with different affiliates. Got some StubHub situations there that may be useful in terms for the Big Ten Championship and what may be available there for that, as well as other ticket needs. So that all can be found there. But this is the big test coming up on Friday. Indiana heading to West Lafayette to take on Purdue and a chance to remain perfect on the year. It's going to take a great effort for this to occur and happen at Purdue. And the weather as of right now, it looks to be windy and cold on that particular day. 30 is only the highs, the lows into the mid-teens. So with that being a night contest, you can bet it will be a little chilly. Maybe not as chilly as last year in that snow that was coming down there at Memorial Stadium in Bloomington, but pretty close to that there in West Lafayette at Ross-Ade Stadium. I remember Ross-Ade's got a complete makeover. It's kind of different since the last time Indiana was in West Lafayette, so it'll be nice to see their new digs, as they are, I heard, very, very nice. And it's going to be one of those things that there are a lot of things this Indiana ball club is playing for outside of the bucket. First time in history when you look at it from the perspective of what else is Indiana playing for. In the past years, it was normally, can they get to 6 wins? Maybe this was this game that was going to have to be won to get to bowl eligibility and things of that magnitude, or it was the game to recapture the Old Oaken Bucket. Well, that's not the case anymore with Curt Cignetti and his Indiana Hoosiers. This Friday night, 7:30, like I stated earlier, a win puts you in the Big Ten championship. It also helps potentially secure the number 2 ranking in the college football playoffs a week prior to the final ranking that would come out, and that would almost ensure Indiana getting a first-round bye, and we'll take a look at that here shortly when it comes to the setup with the college football playoffs in that respect. Also, we talked about just that right there, the punch in the ticket, getting to the college football playoffs. All these things are vitally important. A win is going to put the explanation point on the season. Anything less than that Friday can start some things that Indiana just doesn't want to get into when it comes to who maybe plays in the championship game. How do they fall in the college football playoffs poll? These are all things that Indiana can avoid by just going in and playing their game and not giving Purdue any hope in a ball game that Indiana is a prime favorite of about 28.5 points. So, in that respects. And so that's going to be the biggest thing there with it. Hey, Justin, good evening, my man. Happy Thanksgiving to you. Mission, that's right, 28 points. And that's the whole thing is Indiana, while they are a 28-point favorite, they haven't covered that in the last game or so. So there's been some lackluster performance when it comes to the scoreboard, but they've won, and that's the most important thing for them is to win in that respect. Let's see here. The other thing to keep in mind is there is a lot of different scenarios, especially in this college football playoff poll landscape this year, especially when it comes to 1 loss, but mostly 2 lost teams. There is a plethora of 2 lost teams, Notre Dame being one of them. And while Notre Dame lost their first 2 games of the season, they've kind of marched on a big-time winning streak. I guess one could question that winning streak against lesser opponents, but the bottom line is still the bottom line. They played and win. And what they did to Syracuse on Saturday was just breathtaking. I mean, they scored 21 points prior to the Notre Dame offense even touching the field. And you got a running back like Jeremiah Love. It's pretty impressive what Notre Dame has done. You got Miami in that scenario, whose 2 losses came against weaker opponents, but there is still a clamoring to go to the head-to-head when it comes to those 2 teams, which would give it to Notre Dame. It would give that edge to Miami. It's one of those things that this year in the college football playoffs, there's a lot of things that can happen this last week of the season in terms of how that deck gets shuffled prior to the college football playoffs starting here in the next couple of weeks. But this rivalry weekend, there will be a lot to say. You got Alabama and Auburn. You got Vandy and Tennessee. You can just go right down the list of, schools. Georgia plays Georgia Tech. A year ago, that was a 5-overtime ball game in that respect. You've got Texas A&M and Texas back to a rivalry game that has not been played for a long time. So these are the games that are going to take place here over the next couple days that will have a lot to say about the college football landscape in that respect. So it's going to be a fun weekend upon college football fans because you got rivalry week. And then, of course, when it's all settled and done and the dust settles, you're going to have an idea of who are the top 12 teams that will play in the college football playoffs for this year. And then the last thing here, Hoosier health update. Of course, we do know that Surratt and Kamara are going to play on Friday night. I said on the Monday night show that I do believe Surratt will be on what you call a pitch count or play count because he's trying to get himself back into game shape. So I do look for them to ease him into the ball game in terms of number of plays that he will take on Friday night. Kamara has just kind of been one of those things. It's a nagging thing that he's had. He's had it for, I think, his entire career. So it was more of about a rest issue, but he's back full time. Do not know about Evans as it pertains to the offensive line and how that is going to look up like on Friday night. Have not heard any updates as it pertains to Drew Evans, and the earliest that we would get something will be on the players report there a couple hours before the game in that respect. Poor Syracuse. No. Yeah, exactly. That was a crazy ball game. 21 points before the offense even touched the field. And yep, Robert, it is mind-boggling when you think about the college football poll. But Indiana, health-wise, heading into this bucket game, looks pretty good in that arena where they're getting some pieces of the puzzle back into the flow of it. But admirably, guys like Charlie Becker, who's had a tremendous 2 to 3 week run here, and what he's been able to do has been a big, big, big bright spot for the Indiana offense, and that just makes them that much more threatening in that respects, in that regard. Hamstring in cold weather. Yeah, well, it's not good because it's hard to keep loose, and that's going to be the biggest thing there with Surratt, is going to be how they keep him in sync. He'd probably be on the bike quite a bit to try to keep the blood flowing through there. But I will bet to say that his issues with the hamstring are behind him. I do believe he's probably 2 weeks out from, having any of those issues, but I still think he'll be on a pitch count when it comes to all that. When you look at this road playoff game, it's going to be, this bucket game on Saturday, Indiana trying to retain it on top of trying to do the things we had mentioned before. And you got a team that last year, Indiana just took behind the woodshed and beat 66-0 in a very cold, snowy night where Purdue just flat out quit, to be quite honest with you. I don't think that will be the case come Friday. Barry Odom and his Boilermakers, while their season has not gone as they anticipated, you have to understand and look at them as a whole picture, not by wins and losses, by what has been installed in West Lafayette with Barry Odom as the head coach. This Boiler team playing much better. Their defense pretty decent. Offensively, it's been a problem. That's where their struggles have been when it comes to those type of things. So anyway, that's going to be a key component, and we'll talk a little bit about that there. Let's see here. Football fan, go Bucks. All right. I appreciate you being here, and we enjoy having other fans of other Big Ten teams coming into the tailgate. We are open society here at the tailgate. That is the one thing about this game, 66-0 last year. You can bet Coach Odom has been playing that over and over again in the minds of these kids. The fact that Indiana's number 2 in the country, the fact that there's been historical upsets in Ross-Ade Stadium, especially when Ohio State has come to town, and back in the Drew Brees era, and maybe another one in there as well, where Ohio State went in there undefeated and come out with a loss. So to think that this game is nothing else other than a tooth and nail ball game, I just don't see it being that way like it was last year. I do think this is a game that will have some competitive juice in it in that respect on everything. When you look at this too, the Big Ten schedule coming up this week, and get to that here in a second. 2 games on Friday. Noon game is between Iowa, 6-5, and Nebraska, Nebraska's this interesting situation going on out at Nebraska. Number one, Dylan Raiola's brother decommitted. He's another quarterback, decommitted from the Huskers last week. And there are reports and rumors that the Nebraska is preparing for Dylan Raiola to go in the portal at the end of year, which would be a huge, huge thing to have occur, and would tell you that the place as it pertains to the Husker land isn't all rosy in that respect. Let's see here. Okay. Do you think if OSU makes the Big Ten championship versus IU, does that determine the Heisman? It could. Those are the type of games that you get those type of moments. It really could in that respect. I got to see, and I'm not quite sure, though, when the Heisman trophy is done, because I got a sneaking suspicion that may be prior to the Big Ten championship game, but I'll have to double check on that, football fans. But if, let's just say, there hasn't been a determination, it's more than likely that could have an impact on on the voters when it comes down to the two tops with Mendoza and Sayin. But we'll see in that respect, and I'll do a quick check to see when the Heisman Trophy is actually awarded this year. It's usually the first Saturday in December. Yeah, I think that's what I thought. It's like we'll double check on that. But anyway, so it may not be something that is decided in the Big Ten championship game. But when you look at the schedule, Iowa 6.5-point favorite over Nebraska, and Indiana right now 28.5 points over Purdue. Now that game, 7:30 kickoff on NBC and Peacock. CBS has the earlier one. Then looking to Saturday, the Bucks 9.5-point favorites over Michigan. This one's going to be a dandy of a game, and I wouldn't have thought this a few weeks ago when Michigan was kind of, so-so. But they've really ramped up their running game. They're in conference. They're number one rush team in the conference right now, just conference alone, with over 200 and some yards rushing a game. And we're going to see how the young pups play in this ball game. I think Sayin probably holds the advantage in the sense that he's a little bit more mature in that regard, but his first experience in the big house on a really critical game for Ohio State, it's going to be an interesting dynamic come Saturday there at noon with Michigan and Ohio State. That should be a dandy of a ball game. Oregon's at Washington at 3:30. Washington coming off the win against Purdue, where they controlled it pretty much from about the second quarter on. And their defense is pretty good there at Washington. Oregon with the big win over USC. That has propelled them in the national picture, giving them a signature win. And I would say this game at Washington, only 6.5-point favorite. This could be a dandy of a game as well. And that one, I do think there's going to be some interesting dynamics involved in that one. Wisconsin at Minnesota, 1.5-point favorite. Now, I know that there is an upper, Midwest snowstorm and blizzard going on right now. I know up in the parts of Wisconsin, they're getting anywhere from a foot of snow. I'm not sure what it is like in Minneapolis, but that has probably won't impact it. But the games in Michigan may have some impact from the snow that is creeping into the state right now as we speak. I believe it's supposed to hit in the Indiana regions come Saturday, where Indiana, South Bend's forecast to get like 4 to 6 inches of snow. And where I'm currently at, we're forecast to get somewhere between 3 and 5 or something like that. But that's not supposed to start till Saturday. So we'll see if these have any impacts, especially like you got Penn State and Rutgers. Penn State, of course, they've won a couple ball games, a lot of confidence going in that group. as they head to Rutgers, 13.5-point favorite. The Maryland-Michigan State game, again, that will be another game that could be impacted by the snow in East Lansing. That's a 7 o'clock kick as well. 3.5-point favorite for Michigan State. And then UCLA at USC, primetime game on NBC. USC is currently a 21.5-point favorite. And that will have some interesting aspects of things in that respect come Saturday night. So we've got a lot of things in the conference that are going on when it comes to the rivalry week. I think it's the greatest time of the year. There isn't nothing better than these rivalry games, especially when you have something on the line. Ohio State has something on the line. Michigan has something on the line because Michigan needs to upset Ohio State. That upset may get Michigan into the college football playoffs, but it almost puts them into the Big Ten championship game. So those are some things that there's a lot on that ball game Saturday at Michigan and Ann Arbor for both squads. That is like a playoff game mentality in Ann Arbor come Saturday in that respect. So let's see here. I know we've been talking about the Heisman. My personal opinion is that if OSU plays their ball game on defense and they use their pass game more than run, OSU dominates. I'm assuming you're talking about Michigan and Ohio State in that respect. It's going to be interesting. Michigan's defense is very good. That's the one thing that's kept Michigan in a lot of ball games throughout the season is that factor of it all. And this will be the first game to a degree that Ohio State's defense has faced a very upper tiered offense in that respect. However, I do think Ohio State's defense has the upper hand against a young quarterback, Underwood, there at Michigan. And I do think that's a big advantage for Ohio State when it comes between Underwood and Sayin at this point in time. So again, good one for that as well. Let's see here. Can Ohio State escape the big house? That's going to be a big question for a lot of people. Hey, glad that you're here with us from Fort Bliss. We appreciate you tuning in and all that. And I know we've had a tragedy within our country today with what occurred in Washington, D.C. with some National Guard troops, especially 2 of them that were in very critical condition due to a gun shot that was there this afternoon. So it's just another ugly event that this country just cannot get out from under in that respect. Let's see here. Mission says snow is expected in Anna. Yeah, it's going to be a dandy of a ball game in that respects because of what that is going to be a key component in that game. And like I said, with Indiana, it's going to be a key component in the sense that Indiana and Purdue are going to play nighttime. And again, the temperature, the wind can all have an impact on a ball game from many different sides of the coin. And that's what makes it unique playing in the Midwest in the month of November, almost December, than any other place in the country. So all these SEC fans that talk about this or that come up to the Midwest in December, or and play in a cold weather environment, a la Ohio State last year when they throttled Tennessee. It's a whole different ball game when you're outside and all this for that aspects. Look at it from that standpoint. Looking at the college football playoff picture, this is kind of the thing that moved my head out of the way here. Coming off of the last night's release and such, as you can see right now, Tulane is the group of 5 team that would be in if all things hold serve for them, and they capture their championship game. Tulane would get it in, but there are some on the outside, such as James Madison, that could potentially get the bid for the group of 5 team. Then you look down there, they would line up against Texas Tech. Notre Dame and Oklahoma, that would be a dandy, 9 versus 8. Miami and Oregon would be another one. And then, of course, Alabama and Ole Miss. Who knows what Lane Kiffin's going to do? You know, there's supposedly the offers on the table to go to LSU. And, there's going to be an interesting dynamic this weekend with them playing in the Egg Bowl against Mississippi State. A lot of distractions around Ole Miss, and that's another game that has a lot riding on it, just like Alabama's game has a lot riding on it. Those are 2 lost teams, as is Miami and Notre Dame and Oklahoma, I believe. So these are games this weekend that can still have an impact on this picture heading into next week. Then, of course, the 4 teams with the bye: Georgia, Ohio State, Texas A&M, and Indiana. I like, when you look at that setup as it pertains to who the top 4 teams would potentially play if this is how we would start the college football playoffs. Georgia has a nice setup there because they're going to take on the winner of Tulane, Texas Tech. Ohio State, that would be a dandy potential of a game. Either one of those 2, Notre Dame or Oklahoma, that's no walk in the park. And these games, remember, would all be on at a bowl site. Then you have the winner of Miami and Oregon playing Texas A&M. And then, of course, the winner of Alabama and Ole Miss, Indiana, would play. Now, Indiana could be a 3 seed as much as anything, or a 1 seed, depending what may happen, not just this Saturday, but potentially in the Big Ten championship game. So there's a lot of fluid aspects to that when you think about the potential rankings that would come out in that final ranking after all the championship games are all played in that respect. So a pretty good look there of the playoffs as of right now. And there are some teams on the outside looking in, Michigan being one of them, that could do themselves a huge favor by this weekend if they were able to upset Ohio State. That would be a monumental win for them, catapulting them into the championship college football playoffs, you got to think, as well. So a lot of things going on there as it pertains to the college playoff landscape. Again, if you want a description of the tiebreakers, you can go to the big10.org. I think that's .org, and there is a breakdown of the different scenarios that could play out this weekend as it pertains who will play in the Big Ten championship game come next Saturday. So we kind of talked about this on Monday. Not going to spend a lot of time on it because, again, there's just so many different scenarios there, and who plays, who doesn't play, and things of that magnitude. It's one of those things that it's pretty interesting aspect of things when it comes to that. Kind of think if you look at the past games, OSU tries to dominate the line of scrimmage. They almost always fail because how good the U of M O-line has been over the past few years. Yeah, Michigan, again, Ohio State and Michigan, tradition-rich programs that have been tradition-rich for a number of years. And there's going to be a lot of talent on that field come Saturday. And to say that one side is going to dominate versus the other, that's kind of hard to say because in some respects, like you said, Michigan's O-line has been a ton better in the last 3 to 4 years than what Ohio State faced back 5 or 6 years ago. But again, Matt Patricia in town, new defensive philosophy, Caleb Downs playing lights out. That all is a huge favor for Ohio State on Saturday. If Michigan can run the ball and have effectiveness, kind of like they did last year, and put Ohio State's offense in conflict, they will have a good chance to beating them. Those are the things that they're going to have to do on top of getting takeaways. That's a tall task against an excellent team as Ohio State is. So those are some of the things that Michigan's going to have to do to get above that in that respects. And it shows reminds of that. Good saying there, my man. And Michigan, I think Michigan's only path to the playoffs is by Ohio State, both Ohio State and well, we'll see. I mean, there's a lot of things that can happen in that equation when it comes to that aspect of things of when dummy in that. Hey, we're going to take a quick break, so don't go away. We come right back. We're going to jump into some statistical analysis of this Purdue Indiana matchup. Again, appreciate you being here. We're going to be right back right after these messages right here on the Hoosier Tailgate on thehoosier.com.
Huddle up, football fans. Tailgate season is here, and nobody gets. You ready for game day like Academy Sports and Outdoors? Swing by your local Academy store or shop online at academy.com to find everything you need, from grills to jerseys and more. Be a watch party legend with gear from top brands like Nike and Under Armour, all at unbeatable prices every day. With 8 Academy stores across Indiana, including our Bloomington location, fun can't lose, and neither can you. Gear up today at Academy Sports and Outdoors.
If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code ON3, and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. 1. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code ON3. 2. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. 3. You will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use bonus code ON3 when you sign up. Make this college football season 1 for the history books. Make it legendary. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code ON3 and get your $1,500 first bet offer today. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 plus only. U.S. promotional offers not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario.
Welcome back to the Hoosier Tailgate here on thehoosier.com. Indiana, Purdue battling Friday night for the Old Oaken Bucket. Indiana, remember last year's game, came back and won it 66-0, affirming their first round appearance in the college football playoffs a year ago against Notre Dame. And this year, Indiana looks to A, remain unbeaten, B, capture the Old Oaken Bucket and bring it back to Indiana, and C, punch their ticket to the Big Ten championship as well as the college football playoffs. We've talked about the college football playoff and kind of the scenarios of it. Again, a lot of fluidity amongst that group of 12. A lot of things are going to happen, can happen, probably will happen this weekend in that respects, and that's why Indiana has got to have their full attention, has Purdue full attention in this ball game come Friday night, and what Purdue brings to the table offensively and defensively for Coach Barry Odom. One thing is for sure, a Barry Odom coach football team is going to be tough-nosed and they're going to come at you. And that's just his mentality that he's always employed. He's at D.C., when he was the head coach at Mizzou, at UNLV, where he resurrected that program and brought them back to prominence out there in Nevada. And then, again, not the season that they wanted to have this year, but at the same time, there's been a lot of strides made from this ball club from last year to this year, and he basically rebuilt the entire roster after getting the job in that respect. So we're going to head over here to the stats for this setup game on Saturday, and Indiana and Purdue looking at the offense as it pertains to looking at where these two offenses are now. There's enough data points there now, especially with the season coming to an end after this Friday's game, where these statistical aspects look for Indiana and Purdue. Indiana, again, they hold about a 23-point advantage in points scored a game. Rushing yardage, Indiana still has over 218 yards on the year to Purdue's only 133. Passing offense, Indiana right in there about 260 a game, as well as Purdue in there at 215. And then the total offense, Indiana still right there at 478, Purdue at 348, Indiana at one time, back around week 6 or 7, if my memory serves me correct, they were averaging 500 a game in that respect to their overall offensive production. Third down conversions, Indiana still remains hot in that category, 57%. Purdue right now is at 38.6%, and that's been a big problem for them this year, has been the conversion downs and their defense having to be on the field for quite a lot of times during games. Fourth down conversions, Indiana right now is at 47%, Purdue at 61%, and you can bet any opportunity that Barry Odom has to go for it on fourth down, they are going to go for it, because Indiana's fourth down defense, on the flip side of that, has not been as strong. When you look at the red zone, Indiana 91% when getting in the red zone, they get scores to produce 75, and then touchdowns. Indiana 74%. That's slidden off a little bit on the year. You really like to have red zone touchdowns in that 80% area, to be honest, in some respects, but they're close to that. Purdue's 50% getting scores. Here's the biggest differential that can be seen statistically. Points off of turnovers. Now, Indiana's number 1 in the country in turnover margin at plus 15. I believe Purdue's minus 10 in turnover margin. Indiana has got 96 points off of turnovers this year. Phenomenal. That is huge. It goes without saying how big of a momentum swing that can be. Any ball game where you get turnovers and points, it's huge. And that's what happened to Purdue at Washington. They turned the ball over a couple times. It was 14-0. And that's what happens when you turn it over and good teams convert and make you pay for it. Time of possession, Indiana has been very dominating in that category of late. 34 minutes of possession during the year, 27 for Purdue, and that kind of gives you a peek there at the statistical look from these two offenses when you look at both of these squads. Flipping to the defensive side of the ball, and again, Indiana and Purdue are kind of in different categories in that respect when you look at it with Indiana's defense, who's had a phenomenal year thus far. You can look at the scoring defense. Indiana 11.6, Purdue's given up almost 30. Rushing off defense, Indiana again at 82.5, one of the best in the country, right up there with Ohio State. Ohio State and Indiana have been the top two defenses in the country for the better part of the year when it comes to rush defense. When it comes to passing defense, Indiana right now 165.5. That's a good number for this defense. Purdue's over 246 yards. That has been an area for them, and you can see as it pertains to total defense, Purdue's given up over 400 yards, and that is mainly due to the fact that they're on the field for quite a bit, and that's been a big issue. Third down conversion stops, Indiana 26% on the year, just crazy in that respect. And then Purdue, this is where their defense has hurt them. They're giving up 43% conversions on third downs, which is not great. It's not terrible, but it's not great in that respect. Fourth down, this is where Indiana's defense, they've given up 60% on fourth down conversions, and that's what I was saying with this Purdue team. Anytime they're in a position to go for it on fourth down, you bet they're going to go for it. Now, they did that at Washington and got stopped. Washington's defense stopped them, I think, twice. That led to scores. So, again, I don't think that's going to make a difference. I think Barry Odom's going to say we need to maintain possession, and we're going to go for it when it's 4th and 3, 4th and 4 or less. They're going to go for it. Red zone scores, Indiana, 14 out of 17 opportunities. They've given up points, and Purdue has given up, you can see the number there. The differential is mind-blowing. Purdue has been in the red zone as a defense 48 times this year. 38 of them have resulted in scores. Indiana, 17. That's crazy. They've only had 17 times an offense has penetrated the red zone against Indiana. They've normally just given up 3 points, which has been a big, big thing for Indiana. What red zone touchdowns, 5 of 17 for 29%. That is huge. Again, forcing field goals as opposed to giving up scores. Again, Indiana's defense will be the rock that keeps this football team on track when it comes to Friday. Sacks, Indiana has 33 on the year, and Purdue has got 24. So very pretty good defensive lines on both sides of the coin here, and some good linebackers, but Purdue has gotten 24 sacks on the year. And there's the big thing, turnover margin. Indiana, 15, plus 15 to Purdue's minus 10. That is a big-time differential, and that is one thing that, you know, in that ball game like this, turnovers and third down conversions play a huge part in a game when it's a rivalry game, especially. Let's see. I didn't want that one, dummy. Let's look at some of their top players at Purdue. You got Ryan Brown, the quarterback. Again, he played against Indiana again last year. He's thrown for almost 2,000 yards, completing almost 60% of his passes, 9 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. That's been his biggest drawback, is the number. You know, that's not a good trade-off there when it comes to scores and INTs. They also will play another kid, Jackson, I believe is his name. So they will play a two-headed monster when it comes to Friday's game that Indiana probably has been preparing for already. Maccabee is a guy that I've loved since the time that he started back at true freshman. Only 521 yards this year. He's also a great back out of the backfield, where he's caught 18 balls for 215 yards on the year. And again, he's a big kid, 6'2", 205. A little Roman Himbish-like type of player, but he's been a big player for Purdue and very productive in his years at Purdue. On the outside, you got a couple guys to take a quick look at. One of them is this Michael Jackson. He's a big, solid kid, played at USC, played at Georgia, so he's a portal transfer guy, 504 yards on the year with 1 TD. He's one, and then the big one that Indiana has to be aware of is Nitro Tuggle. This is a kid that's from Napanee, Indiana, played at Northwood High School, went down to Georgia, was a part of their team a year ago, transferred back to Purdue, and he is a definite deep ball threat, 6'1", 195. He's still labeled as a freshman, but he's got 420 yards, 14.5, and 4 TDs. He will be the guy that will challenge any DB that lines up against him, and he's the guy that they'll probably target for that aspect of their game plan. On defense, you got Powell, the linebacker. This kid's a pretty good player. Came from Arkansas, 6'2", 230, 49 solos. He's got 5 sacks and 7 TFLs. He's the kid that Indiana is going to have to be very aware of in every situation possible because of what he's done on the year, not only in the TFL column, but in the sack column, as he's one of their leaders. Up front, Nunley, he's a kid that transferred from Akron. So another MAC kid, kind of like Daly. This kid's 6'3", 265, got 5 sacks as well, 9.5 TFLs. So he's played a pretty darn good year there at Purdue, being that he transferred a couple years ago. So again, he's another guy up front that gives Purdue some quickness, and I like his quickness because he does move really good in that respect, and that's another guy that Indiana is going to have to be aware of. And they're going to have to be aware of more than just those couple of guys as well. Now, that doesn't change. There's probably 4 or 5 other guys that could be mentioned as the names of guys that Indiana is going to have to be overly cautious of. But these are the guys that are at the front of the line, so to speak, and they can play a pretty good football especially, they played Ohio State pretty decently. Honestly, they played them. They had Michigan. Michigan only beat them by 5 in that respects. Let me say this. I obviously don't think Purdue will beat IU, but I think that if you can play ball, it can be close. Well, yeah, I mean, again, you throw out the records when it comes to rivalries. It doesn't matter. Indiana, Purdue, doesn't matter. And like I said, this team is much different than a year ago. Barry Odom has them playing with a little bit more passion and toughness. And like I said, Michigan only beat them by 5. Ohio State, it was a pretty good ball game up through about a half. And USC, they played them tough. They've played a lot of teams tough. Washington was the first game that really got away from them in that respect, that it wasn't a tight ball game. So Indiana will face a tough and a very decent Purdue team that's very capable of playing at an elite level. And Indiana is going to have to match that because, like I've said before, when you are whether you're the 2-ranked, 3-ranked, 1-ranked team in the country, everybody is going to give you a ball game. You got the bullseye, you're going to get everybody's A game. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it when it comes to that. So again, like I said, in that respect, Indiana will have some things on their hands full with this Purdue team when it comes to Saturday's setup. Whoops, wrong one there. I don't know what happened there. I got to get back over to here because I don't want stats. There we go. Again, some of the objectives here before we jump in for a little bit of video. Indiana, again, 4+ yards on first down, 60% of the time. That goes to the overall efficiency of the offense to set up third and short situations. Again, got to have a credible run threat against this Purdue team. Got to have that 150+ more yards Friday night. They got to get Hemby and Black the touches, the targets, and also get those guys out of the backfield as well and make them threats as receivers. Win the time of possession. This is a game when you get in cold weather environments, winning that time of possession is huge, especially when you get a lead. Not give up any sacks against this Purdue team. That's a pretty big feat for Indiana. But again, they got to protect Fernando. They give him the protection. He's going to find somebody. 3 explosive plays in the passing game and 260+ yards passing. Again, Surratt coming back adds an element that Indiana hasn't had for 3 weeks, although Charlie Becker has kind of stepped into that position and done it remarkably well. But again, you're still talking about a kid that's been there, done that. So Surratt, Omar Cooper, E.J. Williams, Charlie Becker, those 4 can be dominant on Saturday, and Indiana needs to try to find ways to target those guys on Friday night. And then how they use Holden Stays and Nowakowski, the tight ends, is also vitally important, and because that Stays kid is a beast. He's a heck of an athlete. And then the red zone, try to get 4 touchdowns on 4 straight trips with an 80% TD rate. That would be a huge success for game objectives. When you look at the defense, again, hold Purdue to under 90 yards rushing, win the money down. That's third down scenarios. Get two or more takeaways. Tackle with authority. They got to tackle and wrap up Maccabee. He is a hard runner. He does not go down easily. They've got to do things in that respect. So that's going to be huge for them in that category. Target 3+ sacks, no blown coverages. That's been something that Indiana has had some problems with the coverage, but not of late. And then limit them to 10 or fewer points. And then special teams, I look for them, again, own the field position battle. Force Purdue to start the majority of the game inside their 28-yard line. Return game, get at least 2 returns of 15+ yards, 100% of field goals of 40 and in. Game changers, punt block, return a TD. Those are the things that can make a huge difference in this ball game, or get a takeaway in a special teams, which Indiana can and has done throughout the season. But again, this is a situation where Indiana has to have these objectives in front of them on Friday because that's what it's going to take to win. You're going to have a game where, again, they could be Purdue is like 93rd in offense, 100 and something in defense when you talk about actual rankings. And I get that, and that tells a story. But, again, throw it out the window when it comes to rivalry games because it doesn't matter. Those things do not matter. Indiana, and I've said this before, the best recipe to beat a Purdue team that's had a season of tough losses this year is not to give them any hope. If you don't give them any hope, then that tent will start folding as you go along. But if you give them any ounce of hope or blood in the water, per se, they'll be like sharks, and it'll be a tooth and dog nail fight to the end. And that's what you can't have, is giving them any hope. As you saw when Indiana played Penn State, when they had them down 20-7, third quarter, they giving them hope. And next thing you know, Indiana was down. And that's what you can't have. You cannot let a team back in a ball game when you got them down. And that takes a complementary football game, offense and defense working in unison to keep that in that respect. Okay, let's head over here into the video aspect of things and get a few of this. Let's see here. I got to get there first. There we go. And look at some of these, some of the Purdue stuff and from earlier in the year, and I'll go through quickly, not too quick, but again, this was against USC. This was a while ago. As you can see, they're predominantly a 3-4 defense in their scheme, 3-4, 3-5 in that respect. They'll throw the odd fronts, the even fronts, and this is on a 3rd and long, and you can see they've been subject to giving up big plays, and here's one of them. This is a heck of throw and a catch, and next thing you know, it's down the field, and you're giving up a 3rd and 9, and you're all the way down inside your 26-yard line. Get a good look from the end zone here against this USC team. Again, their defensive line is pretty decent. Now, I like what this left guard does. Watch this. Boom. Thank you very much. Like that one. Here we go with them now down in an even front type of deal. May still be an odd look because this may be a zero nose, but it's more of an even front, and you're getting a combination type of coverage. They're bringing pressure on the outside. This is a zone blitz type of scenario because you can see how the end at the bottom's playing, and they're rolling to a cover three deep look. This is just a nice throw and catch, really good design scheme because this is an RPO off of the counter game. They can run counter or you can throw it, which he threw it and put them in big conflict in that type of play. So there gives you a better look at it. It kind of looks like an odd front too, but I'm going to say Indiana's going to treat this as an even front and just call this a zero nose, but you got a wide 3 technique and a wide 5 with everything and use that as an even front, in my opinion. But good blocking on the perimeter there and big play for them. Kind of the red zone look here. Again, back to their odd front look, kind of trying to give a really weird coverage look to the quarterback as you're looking at the safeties and corners all about 10 yards off the ball. And they're only rushing 3 and dropping 8. So it makes it difficult to throw the ball when you do that, especially down here in the red zone. He runs it and doesn't get very much when it looked like he's going to get a lot. So this is where Indiana, in this situation here, and again, I'm not quite sure the down and distance because I didn't look, but here's the situation. You've got a 5-man box, okay? Why they're throwing it here is beyond me. This is what we call a light box. So I don't care what you run, you should win because you got 6 guys, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 to block their 5. Yes, there's going to be guys rolling down, but let the tailback take over there. So this is, in a lot of ways, not a great call. They're running a mesh concept against zone coverage, and this is a dead play from the start. He has nobody, but run it, dude. He could have got in the end zone. I don't know about that cat. Here they are again. They're still in their odd front, even though the ball's on the 3-yard line. And again, this should be it's a dead play. You're throwing it into 4 guys out here, essentially. Again, a light box inside, and they're throwing it on the 3-yard line. That right there is, you can't get a better picture of run look. And I know that, this guy is going to be a factor. You could say, well, he's technically in the box, and he's technically, nah, I don't think so. I think you take your chances and jam it right up there and get yourself in the end zone. Okay, here again, situational D in this respect. Used a little motion against them. This is a good play because it shows you a good thing that USC's doing here. You can see the seams open up because they're getting Purdue to stretch with them, and they're overflowing and things like that. And again, safety misses the tackle, and it's a 7-yard play. But this works because they do a good job, a true odd man front, or even front here. Now if you got RPOs on, you got a 6-man box, you may throw it depending on the look. But now with this look here, they do such a good job of getting them to run with them, and they get the seams you need for inside zone, because look at that cut this cat makes. Boom. I mean, that's just a phenomenal cut by him. Again, another type of RPO here. Pulls it and slings it. So there are plays to be made interiorly as well as on the outside here. I'm just trying to get to some of this Michigan game, then I'll throw their offense on here real quick. They played Michigan tough. Like I said, it's a 21-16 ball game, and Underwood had some trouble, and they had some. This is a time where they're in a bear front, they're looping a backer blitz, and they're playing zone in behind it, and there's nobody open, and they get good pressure. And this is the thing that hurts them, is they give up the quarterback getting outside the blitzing linebacker. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. So this cat's going to come, and he's got to keep everything on his inside shoulder because there's nobody else left. They do a twist, and 16 jumps inside of it, and he can't do that, and that's what lets Underwood get on the outside, and it's over because there's nobody else out there. Michigan does a lot with Underwood to get him on the run here, just a pure kind of a naked look off the zone action. But Purdue does a great job defending it here with their Mike linebacker. Again, they're in that bear front. Mike's reading these eyes. He pulls the chain, and next thing you know, he's got a sack on his hands for a big play. One more here of this offense. This is a creative play. I like this play because they're running like a modified version of counter. They're pulling the guard. The fullback's kind of looking like he's going to the right. He reverses course, and they're running counter back inside there, and good hard run there. So kind of a neat design, creative play there by Michigan. And this is what I mean by creativity within your running game. They're showing a look. Maybe they haven't shown it yet. It kind of gets Purdue. They're even front here. And if they get to the mic here, they got a chance. I don't know what happens. Oh, the mic blitzes, so it's the backside linebacker that gets over the top of it. Yep, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. Let me throw some of their – oops, let's go down here. Here's some of their offense. Try to show some of this. Pretty similar to what Indiana is in terms of offense. You're going to see a lot of tight end attached, unattached, 3 receiver set, 11 personnel. This first play of the game, Washington heats them up and comes after it, and they make a nice play inside and get nothing. But great field position. And that's the one thing, too, like I said, the Purdue defense has created turnovers. They got 2 interceptions against Michigan, with Michigan inside the 20-yard line. So while that game was a 21-16 game, Michigan doesn't turn it over in the red zone. It's not even close. But their defense has risen to the occasion on times and got big turnovers. Now, Brown played against Indiana last year. He's got a decent arm. I wouldn't classify it as a great arm, even though he's completing 60% of his passes. He is a good, solid quarterback, plays with a lot of moxie. Up front, I don't think that's their strong point. I think in a lot of ways it's their weak point, is their offensive line. Okay, here, let's see what we got. This is a new series. Again, getting that bunch set, attached, motion, running inside zone. That's kind of their bread and butter play, kind of like what Indiana is. They like the inside zone and what they'd like to run. Here's a big 3rd and long for them. Trying to get the ball in and out of the quarterback's hands quickly, which he does. And like I said, that's how he gets a lot of his completion percentages, is they're trying to get the ball in and out of his hands quick. Again, they don't want to give up sacks or bad plays, and that's sometimes what he does. Straight quarterback draw. This is the Jackson kid, who is the gentleman that they'll play. You can see he's a little bigger, a little thicker body for them. And they utilize him in special situations like here on quarterback draw. They catch Washington and give up a pretty good play there. He's still in there. Quarterback run again, and they don't get anything. Stop them fully in that respect. So, again, you're going to see 2 guys on Friday, and the Jackson kid that's in there will be a guy that they will use in this ball game to do what he did there. So those are the type of things you can see on Friday. I think Purdue they replaced a lot, Mission. That's correct. They did replace a lot of players off of last year's team. He just kind of cleaned house, which is what he probably needed to do in that respect, and they got it done. I do think in this respect, and I try not to do too many score predictions, but I'll do one on this one if it pops up here. Maybe it won't pop up. Let's see if it does. There. Oh, I got to get to the right one, dummy. For this game on Saturday is Indiana. I do think Indiana should be able to win this ball game. I do think they need to I think they can get 35-13, get themselves into the Big Ten championship to potentially face Ohio State, a 1-2 matchup, which would be great to see as a Big Ten championship game, and most importantly, bringing the bucket back home to Indiana on Friday night. But again, this is going to take a yeoman's effort to get it done, and Indiana cannot take a team like Purdue lightly, and I guarantee it, Coach Cignetti is not going to let that happen. Well, I appreciate you guys joining me here this evening on the Hoosier Tailgate. Remember, on Friday after the game, Jim Coyle and I will be on for the post-game show. I will be in attendance in Purdue, West Lafayette, so we'll be on site together as well. You'll have to look to see if I put out a pregame primer since I'm going to be on site. If I do something, it would be on tape, so you'll get the chance to watch it at your leisure on Friday before the game. But if you're looking to pick up on episodes you may miss, they're all on YouTube as well as Spotify, Apple Podcast. If you're going and Mission says he's going to go 45-10, by all means, drop your predictions in the comments section if you're there and you got the opportunity. And we'll see who's closest to the bell on Friday with everything. And by the way, guys, happy Thanksgiving to you and your family and loved ones. May tomorrow be a great day of enjoying those that you love, eating great meals, and getting yourself prepared for Friday's showdown in West Lafayette. And again, like I said, post-game show with me and Jim Coyle, and we'll see whether or not we're celebrating a 12-0 season, the Bucket going back to Bloomington, and the Indiana Hoosiers punching their ticket to the Big Ten championship game. No matter what, we'll see you back here Monday night, 7:30. We'll do a recap of this game against the Boilers and hopefully set you up for that next week's potential Big Ten championship game against potentially Ohio State. We'll find out come Monday. But until that time, I'm the coach, Shannon Griffith. You've been watching the Hoosier Tailgate here on thehoosier.com. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.